Let's begin. Evening team, evening everyone. We're looking at ES currently, as always. That's how we start the week. Like to see exactly where the market's headed, direction. And this is the closing month candle, the closing monthly candle for this month. Like I stated, there are a lot of vacuum monthlies that are set up and due. ES already did it, SPY already did it, but there are a lot of individual stocks that need to play catch up. And so far, we've nailed the ones that have been lagging: Target, WMT, ED. I can keep going. There's so much more. As you guys can see, I have a target of 35.10 on ES. This is with the fibs. That's if we get above all-time high. So 35.10 would be my target. That's monthly for ES. I don't really care about ES. Let's dive into the first one, LNG. This one is very interesting. The reason it's caught my eye was because of the weekly. It was all about the weekly for this one. I'm gonna show you guys right now why it got me. This is a monthly chart. Still needs a vacuum to happen. Hasn't even touched its 14 SMA. So is it possible that can happen this week? Yes, it definitely can happen this week. A lot of things can happen this week. So we have the 5250 calls for this one. Let's get rid of these arrows. I should have cleaned this up right before. This is our monthly chart. We have not tested the 14 SMA, but we have a triple top, 5182 on the monthly. So now we're looking at the weekly. Weekly is pretty gorgeous to me. It's been setting up. It's been inside. Bouncing off the 30 SMA. I was thinking about retesting 4708, but doesn't need to happen. It's just been bouncing off the 30 SMA. Anything above 5182, it gets 5565. This is why I was saying I have to possibly reassess this week. Might have to cut losses and roll out at least 2 to 3 weeks on the 55 calls, what makes the most sense. So we got an inside week. So I'm looking for a big move this week. I'm looking for at least about 4 points. That should be enough to go in the money for our 5250 calls, but I definitely rather roll down into the 50 calls as opposed to keeping the 5250s. These are our levels, 5182. Anything above that, 5565, 4708. Anything below that, 4339. That's a weekly chart. Here's your daily chart. Daily has been tight. Just a triangle. Nice asymmetrical triangle. Not too bad. Inverted hammer. Love those. Nice flag also. Very tight triangle at that too. Just everything lines up perfectly, all levels. Pretty clean. Depending on how Monday opens, it's going to be interesting. If we can get touched one time the 30 SMA to open on a daily tomorrow, that's around 48.70, about 20-cent gap down. I'd roll up into the 50, actually roll down into the 50 calls for the week. I'm definitely going to take possibly a 10-cent loss. Average is about 22 to 30 to 25 cents. 300 contracts, I think I have, about 300. I have to double check that. No shame in my game. But I want to play smart. I want to play this one very smart. We're actually trading mid-range of 4708 and 5182. So we have to play this one very smart. But this is definitely due for a nice breakout. Anything above 5182 and a close above that this week is 5565 in the coming 2 weeks, possibly faster than that. Here's an H4. Pretty tight, pretty good. This reminds me of this setup here last Friday. What is that? 626. Then followed with a nice engulfing candle. Then breaks out. Should see 5182 possibly by Wednesday. Above that, we should get a nice big move. But I definitely want to roll our 5250s into the 50 calls. All or nothing, to be honest. Possibly leave like 10 contracts of the 5250s. I want to do this one very smart. This is C. I'm going like straight through everything. C has been in the tightest range possible, as you can see here. 5221 has been resistance, has been the most important area to close above or below. And the thing about this here, it's just been inside, inside, inside. This is an H4, so let's go daily. Inside daily. It's just been nothing but inside candles. We actually been inside of this one candle, 710 candle. The price has been trading in between that range. That range was a 3.24 range. So it was a low of 49.45, high of 52.65. So basically anything above that 52.20, that 52.21, close above that, we get an extension to 56, targeting 60. The monthlies will has my eye to as well. We're still inside. We're trading inside of what month was this? March's candle. Anything above 65.39, automatic long. Below, what would that be? 41.75. I doubt that happens. Last month, we tested the 14 SMA. We still haven't tested the 30 SMA, and that's going to be next. That's about 64.88. This monthly close, something has to come out. I'm not too sure what it is, but I want you guys to stay focused. I want you guys to just pay attention. Watch your weekly candles as well. Your weekly and monthlies are the only things important right now to tell you that. We have a vacuum due. This is another reason why I played C, because I taught you guys that when playing vacuums, you can get a quick vacuum to the 14. You can get a quick vacuum to the 30. Sometimes it can go straight to the 31st before it actually hits the 14. It can actually just go straight through the 14. So here on this weekly with C, when it got above the 14, the second week it followed and it vacuumed straight to the 30. We tested the 30, opened up the following week after that and came back down to the 14. And it's just been hovering above the 14. We need to close this vacuum, get a close above the 30 SMA, which should possibly happen next week, if not this week. You can see these ranges over here in the previous, June 6th week and the June 8th week. We had 13-point ranges on the weeklies. This is an inside weekly too. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 inside weeks on a weekly candle. Any break above 59.49 or below 46.53. That's how you would trade this. That close this past Friday's close. I like it. Close below 52.21. We closed at 51.67. I was looking for at least 52, but I mean, this is still valid. My target is the 30 SMA for this week. So if our 55 calls get in the money, it was have to start happening by Wednesday. We need to be trading at least 54 by Wednesday. So I want to reassess this as well. So depending on how we open Monday, if we gap down Monday, I have to roll. I have to take a loss. And I have to roll down into, I'm going to go for the 52.50s. That would be the smartest thing to trade for this week, the 52.50s. Last week was the 52s and the 52.50s as well. You can see how those did. It was pretty iffy too.
Nobody knew what was going on. The best bet this past Friday into the close was to go long. It was automatically to go long. It's a daily chart. Very tight range. And you guys know GS is my favorite chart, but C does some things when it gets going. And C's been lagging. GS has been doing crazy moves. GS can be bullish and C can still just lag. C has just been lagging. Now it's time for C to move. Supporting the 14 and 30 on a daily chart. Get above 42.21. I want to see a gap above 42.21 Monday. If that can happen, that'll be perfect. We won't have to fill any gaps because this is a daily chart. So the high wick of Friday was 52.48. So anything within that range from 52.21 to 52.48, no gap really needs to be filled. What can happen is they can gap us above 52.21. We retest 52.21, and then we'll just double down or add from there. If you like, you can hold. Me, personally, I just rather play safe. So my goal would be to liquidate or roll down into a closer strike. Safe is better than anything. I will tell you guys, buy time as well, too. Another thing that got me, you guys know I don't pay attention to OI, but if they're trying to close the monthly, it's going to be around 55, 56. We're going to actually test 56 and then close at like 55. Just get that vacuum to go, too. These are your levels. This will be posted in Ninja Chart visuals as well. She's just been in a tight range. It's been trading between 53.43 and 48.46. Almost a month at that, too. Actually, a month. So it's bound to break out. I actually want to see a retest of 62.47 in the coming weeks. So August, possibly 60s would be smart. Actually, even get to check those as well. I want to look at the 60s for January, too. August 55 is actually cheap, too. They're under $1. So that's C. I tell you, I'm going through this. I don't want you guys to think anything. Your levels are there. Yum is my next target. Ed, we already have a visual for Ed, so there's no need to talk about that. Ed actually reports this week too, Thursday. I actually bought the 80 calls for August 7th. I didn't take this week's, but I'm thinking about taking this week's. If Ed can pull back this week, I'm definitely going to get back into that. I'm going to try to take the 80 calls this week and possibly 82s next week because my target is around 82.50 for Ed. This is Yum. This is super bullish. We got a double inside on a daily. Target 95.03. Anything above that, 98.28. Long term, 110. Target here showing 107.74, but 110s would be smart just for a premium. All-time highs is 119, so 110s would be the smartest. This one has like a cup and handle forming as well. 95 calls for this week are not that bad. Let me see what the price is on those. I'm not sure if they report either. Yeah, they have to report if they're expensive, so they have to report soon. Looking at August, 98s would be, well, they have no 98s. They have 97s and 100s. So August 21st, 100s, I like those to open, especially on the pullback. Spreads suck on the August 14, so 8-14 spreads are horrible. But this Yum trade looks amazing. I know a lot of you guys were watching McDonald's. We've traded Yum in the past, been very successful with that. If they can just come down one more time, test 89.99, we get long 95 calls, 2 weeks out, 100 calls, 4 weeks out, set it and forget it. We're not gonna make that mistake that we made with Ed. Ed, we made a big mistake. We did great with that trading Ed, but we're not gonna make the same mistake twice. Here's a monthly for Yum, just to give you a visual, give you an idea. YUM haven't touched its 14 SMA yet. It touched its 30 SMA, but it hasn't touched its 14 SMA. That's at 98.28. And they report this week. So I can see a vacuum hitting 98.28. As long as they close above 95.03, we can see 110. So a smart trade here would be taking the 100 calls 2 to 3 weeks out. I have to check those premiums as well. But monthly, I'm bullish. This is another name that actually has not got close to its all-time high. There's a lot of names that are lagging when it comes to their all-time highs. And a lot of people are not even paying attention to that. That's why Target, WMT, and some other names were very successful for us this month. I don't know if I went over the weekly for this one, for YUM. Yeah, here's a weekly for YUM. Pretty strong, holding above the 14 and 30 as well. Like I told you, 95.03 is a key level. So they have to report this week. I just don't know when they report. I don't know if this is a trade where if they do gap up, we wait. Anything that gaps up above its last week's high, you short. And then you roll into calls. Instead of basically closing your position and then going long, you can actually short to open. And then instead of like you're covering by just rolling into calls. That's actually one of the easiest strategies to do. And it saves time with closing a position out, then looking for the position. Nope, all you're doing is just rolling. You're rolling into puts. You take puts, and then you roll into calls. Depends on whatever side it is. It doesn't matter. But I love this chart a lot. Finally closed above the 14 and 30, and it's held. Now it needs to hold above 89.99. Now it has to remain supported by the 14 and 30 for the next 2 to 3 weeks. Then we can see 107.74. That'll be our next target, over 98.28. Now this name, a lot of people say I should trade this more, but I don't like to trade things because everybody trades it all the time. Nobody really nailed Tesla Friday like we nailed Tesla Friday. And the reason I say this is because when I tweeted it after we got in and everything like that, everybody liked it. I don't know if it was because I posted back on Twitter, or it was more of, I noticed a lot of people closed their puts when I went long Tesla Friday. So that was telling me that a lot of people were short. Mentally, a lot of people's bias was, okay, I'm going to short Tesla. Friday wasn't the time to short. Possibly into the close, yes. I still have my target. I already told you guys my target, 12.28 is going to be my target. I want that gap to fill down here. It may not touch 12.28. I mean, anything is possible. It gets close to it. I'm 100% long 1,500 calls, 2 to 3 weeks out, and 1,700 calls a month to 2 months out. I definitely want to see a green bar happen. If Tesla could gap down 100 to 200 points, that would be the best thing ever. I think I would close every single position we have and go all in. I'll go all in. I'll take 1,800 calls for September and call it a year. It's been hovering above the 14 and 30. It hasn't touched the 14 since 3/16. So that's March. Needs to come down and retest that 14 though. I want to see at 11:46 this yellow bar here. This is a weekly chart too. So we're back inside 7-6 weekly candle. Let's see what they do here. And if they can open somewhere around 12.67, I mean, I doubt that would happen. But a gap down in this situation on a weekly, like I always told you guys, if you get a gap up on a weekly, that gap is always going to fill. It might take some time to fill, but it's going to fill. If you get a gap down on a weekly, you always go long on a weekly. When you get a gap down, you go long on a weekly. This is Tesla. I'm going to do a retracement. These are levels. You got 1378.99. You got 1240.60. So 1240.60 will possibly be where we're headed before we actually bounce. That should bring the 14 up and the 30 SMA up. 30 SMA should be above 936.29. 14 SMA should be trading above 1069.61. I only trade Tesla when it's relevant, when it makes sense. I mean, you can trade Tesla any other day. There's so many days that it's a great trade. I just don't like trading when it's too crowded because there's so many different biases. You have shorts, longs. This is all of that. I just want to be one-sided with this. That candle Friday was interesting, but I feel like we can get another gap down. If they can touch this anywhere near the 30 SMA, you got to get long. You get long, 1500s, even if they go 1550s. I'll take the 1550s because of what? The last 2 weeks, Tesla's been trading 300 in a 300-point range. What is that? Last week was 363. This is what I love. I love ranges. I thrive off of ranges. Last week was 322. Prior to that, 363. Prior to that, 282. Prior to that, 279. The higher, the bigger the range. But also the faster it can come down. It can open up, let's say we open 1432. I'd short 1,200 calls for the following week, or even 1,200 calls for this week. And then I'll get long 1,300 calls for, no, 1,400 calls for the following week. That's what I would roll into. This is why I'm giving 4 different tickers this week. We have enough people on our team to monitor every single ticker. Every ticker that I've actually posted, you guys actually been trading religiously, and I love it. So when one of you guys tell me it's ready, I actually pay more attention to my team saying a ticker that I put on the map for a lot of people than Twitter. I don't pay attention to Twitter. It's like, oh, your Pepsi's ready. I'm like, it's not ready. You know, if you guys tell me something's ready, I pay more attention to it. Who called? It was Charter. What else? We had Charter was ready. Oh my God, that other one. I forgot the other one. Hold on. Let me stop